Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Triangle Button podcast. With me today is obviously my great friend Caleb. Caleb, tell the fans how you're doing.
Good evening, pal.
Good to be here. Sounds great. All right. So last week we left off on a pretty interesting conversation. We were just recounting the news about James Gunn's layout for how the DC movies are going to be and the concept of Elseworlds. And Caleb made a wonderful contribution with. I think that going with these groupings or just single universes for each character would benefit the characters really well, given that they're so drastically different and the combination of the two. So going off that conversation, if you want to take it from here, Caleb.
Yeah. We were just talking about sort of the flaws with the original DCEU and how this could maybe learn from those mistakes. And let's just jump right into it with the first question of how do you think Shazam: Fury of the Gods is going to pan out as a movie?
Um, I'll be honest, I've never been the biggest fan of Shazam. I watched the movie and I thought, that's kind of cute. It's very much like a snacky popcorn flick, and it just did not really pique my interest in what I would have wanted. Same with Black Adam personally, but I'll get into that in a second. With Shazam, I find that I struggle just to keep that interest because he's that kind of character. So with the Fury of the Gods, I think there was a commercial that actually spoiled that Wonder Woman was gonna be in there, because they showed, her boot or whatever, and all I could think of is I really first off, I don't think Wonder Woman and Shazam are great to, combine in a movie. Like, any of the major Justice League, I don't think it meshes well with Shazam. Now, I know how in the original Justice League cartoon that they actually had it so Shazam was, meant to be that kitty character, but that contrast is that he also holds that pure wisdom. And even though he's kind of he is a child, and that difference between that as well as the realism, detectives just claiming a stamp on everything, and that was meant to contrast. I just personally feel like it just doesn't work with what DCEU has provided with the Shazam. I think that it's kind of immature to the point where it's Wonder Woman has been demonstrated to be originally yeah, she's just the same, she's strong, she kind of jokes around or whatever, but that's it. To then being in the Snyder cut of murdering guys with no problem raised. She switched so tonally that now trying to imagine her with Shazam, it just either she's gonna be oddly paired with being a serious character with the goofy one, or being this off-brand kind of reduced character who's comedic with Shazam. I don't like it personally. Does that make sense? What I said? Do you agree with some of those points?
Watching the first Shazam felt like Diary of a Wimpy Kid type
No.
stuff. like I don't know how to describe it other than oh, is this an Alvin and the Chipmunks movie? Like what? It just I don't know. There was some quality to it that was about just middle schoolers having fun and using magic powers, and it's really it comes down to it comes down to taste, I guess. I do agree with you. I prefer I guess I prefer the meat of a movie to be a bit more serious. This
Mhm.
I don't think of it. There's a movie called Shorts from 2009. It's about a wishing rock. It's about kids who find a wishing rock, and it's
Oh,
just
yeah, and one of the kids, wanted wished for, his booger to be, incredibly large. I don't get that movie was fucked.
and
I do remember that movie, though.
it felt like that movie of just a bunch of goofy crap happening of they go to this to get slushies together and buy beer, and then he throws a criminal through the window, and just all of the gags really felt like I guess just I guess I just were a little too old for them. It would be the most charitable way to say it, maybe.
Mhm,
This would be super fun if I was 8 or 9. I'm a little too
mhm.
old for this now, though. And I do agree with you that tonally it doesn't fit in the DCEU if we're to take the DCEU seriously.
I
Um,
mean, sorry, you go. I don't wanna interrupt.
Specifically, just the magical CGI quality of their costumes. like Shazam is a universe where you're getting knocked through 5 buildings, and you're like, oh, ho, ho, how annoying. And I kind of feel like I kind of like the more Wonder Woman dust covered, like blood soaked sword. You know what I mean? Like the a little bit
Yeah.
grit, you might say. So that those are my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I would definitely, like, argue that, like, well, obviously Shazam and Superman hold many of, like, the same powers, like, they're both hold the same power until, like, obviously Shazam says his name in order to transform back into a kid or have that lightning effect. So, like, and that's my opinion, but the problem is that with, like, Shazam, he's meant to be a more kiddish character, and you don't get that serious responsibility that Clark Kent has, which I think demonstrates why you have to be careful with that kind of character with that amount of power, as well as, like, their character traits, right? Like, he is wise because of his childish nature to believe in good and justice. However, it just, you know, to me, like, I don't know, maybe that's, like, too, like, analytical for, like, a comic book character. I just feel like, like,
Onto
that
something. You're definitely onto something.
like, I just think that, like, that's why, like, I've always struggled to kind of connect to that character and find him enjoyable, and I don't know, like, I feel like the only thing for me that saved that, like, not saved the movie, like, made me interested in watching the movie is because of the villain, because I've seen it, like, that actor in Kingsman or Kingsman, sorry, not Kingsman. Actually,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and I just like that actor, and he did a wonderful in that role, so that was a really huge, like, you know, drive to go and see that movie, and I find that for Shazam, the second one, it's so weird too because it has these, like, really cool, like, yeah, if you just focus a little more, like, this kid's a runaway, and he's finally like, he's finding a family for the first time, but he went from this dark, serious, like, I don't give a fuck character to then being, like, ultra caring,
Well,
and it's weird to pair with his powers too.
it has like a quality to it where it does it just doesn't flow well, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. It just has this yeah, this story where it starts off with like an orphan,
Yeah.
and then the change of just him into hero all of a sudden did feel very abrupt.
It doesn't
Um
he feels like a different character too. Like, he goes from, like, "Man, I don't really give a fuck," to then be like, "Huh, you're dead." It's like, you don't sound like that, though. You don't act like that in your kid form. So it's weird to see, like, you're more kiddish in adult form, and I don't understand why. Does that make sense?
yes, you're right. Like as a kid, he's acting like he's 15, but as an adult, he's acting like he's 7. Like it's
That's
really
the problem. It's like, why? Like, I don't even know if they're trying to do something where it's like, you might think that when you're in the adult form, you're gonna act more mature, but you act up being sillier. It's like, no, it just doesn't work. And I really would appreciate if there was, like, a tonally consistent, like, like, not personification, like a continuance, like, of his personality traits and how he carries himself and conveys himself. And I felt like that was lost when you got into the Shazam form.
Yeah, yeah, there's like a yeah, you're right. It felt like the actors just didn't coordinate. Like they told Zachary Levi acts like a little kid, and then they told the kid acts like a rough teenager, and then the synthesis of the two was just it was out of sync. Um,
Yeah.
so no, you're right.
Like, I
Um,
feel like if they just went a little more, Aquaman with it, and what I mean by that is, like, Aquaman's a very comedic film, but it also has these, like, serious moments when it's time to be serious, even, though we had to forgive the god awful child actor for Aquaman. Oh god, still
yeah,
haunts me.
the I was gonna say maybe we should switch into the Flash now, just because we have a lot of films to get through.
Yeah, sure, man, that's okay.
Yeah. Besides, it feels like I don't want to focus on just saying, yeah, this film was mid, and just like let's get to the
No,
ones that
no,
are
no, 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 no. I was just, like, saying, like, I think that I hope for the second film that they focus on that more mature role that Aquaman does when focusing and
yeah,
requiring.
I
That's all I
agree.
wanted to that's what I wanted to end on. Alright,
Yeah,
what's the next one, sorry?
called The Flash, uh,
Oh boy.
starring Ezra Miller. Take it away,
Alright.
Michael.
Sorry,
Take it
I
away.
thought it was Kevin Spacey.
Take it away. Just what do you have to say about this movie?
Sorry, sorry. Sorry. Um, Anyways, going back to serious mode, what do I think of this film? All right. I heard apparently that they're going to be considering bringing Grant Gustin in for the like in the role, and that they're actually instead of continuing with Ezra Miller by the end of the movie, they're actually going to switch it to Grant Gustin in the mature role. and that would be amazing because I like that guy in the role personally. He's a lot better of a Flash when in his earlier seasons. Now, getting on to the main story, I find it is very interesting because my understanding is that he goes and saves his mother, and then he creates all of these different timelines. And I think it's a cool multiverse movie, but it's a wonderful opportunity for Warner Brothers to reset the god awful universe they have created. And I think that they're trying to almost pull off a No Way Home. And I think that this film, despite its, it's obvious, like, you know, you know, I'm trying to think of like the best word to describe it. Not entanglements, of course, but like yeah, sure, the entanglements with Ezra Miller regarding that film. I think that people will go and see it because of the nostalgia effect by having Michael Keaton as the original Batman, as well as having a Batgirl and Ben Affleck back in the role, and having all of these characters, all these different flashes. I think will tie the film really well, and it's still going to be an enjoyable movie despite all of the controversy surrounding Ezra Miller. What is your thoughts?
I do think that like Ezra Miller being a piece of shit isn't enough to like ditch the whole movie. I also will say
Wait,
in
hold up. You're saying well he just being a little shit, but man, not only did he have assault charges, he apparently like romanticized with like a 14-year girl over text, captured her, took her basically hostage for 15 hours, and
like
you're saying
those fit in the definition of being a piece of shit in my books. Um,
no, I mean it's a piece of shit. Yes, of course. But you kind of just said he's just kind of being an asshole, like whatever. And I'm like,
well,
yo,
okay, I guess I should say Ezra Miller being the spawn of Satan is one thing to
okay,
consider.
I don't think he's
But
the spawn of Satan necessarily either.
fine, I'll rephrase again. Ezra Miller being somewhere between a piece of shit and the spawn of Satan in terms of badness, not quite as good as a piece of shit, but not quite as bad as the spawn of Satan, um, is not enough to ruin this movie.
Yes, because
Uh,
of the nostalgia effect, which I think is going to have like a No Way Home effect.
mhm. Yeah, there's a yeah. I think the nostalgia is a little, a little underwhelming. Like maybe it's just me. It probably is just me, but when I saw No Way Home, I was like, "That's that's the Spider Man." But when I
Toby
see this,
Maguire. Oh,
I'm kind of like, "Oh yeah, the 1989 Batman." I saw three of those movies, I
I only
believe.
remember one of those,
I remember like,
but
yeah,
they seem like a fever dream combo.
yeah, it's like okay, we remember like the fourth one was bad and had the bad recast. I've seen the Val Kilmer one. I don't even know if it's in the same canon. And then I guess the second one with Michael Keaton I saw with Penguin and Catwoman, like, and it's kind of like okay, those were weird, cool, yeah, yeah, nice. Um,
Mhm.
so that's why honestly, like, it feels kind of like goofy, I guess, that he's in this more than nostalgic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really feel much when he showed up. Um, it also seems like there was a serious, I guess, a serious issue of tonality where I can't tell if this movie is trying to jumpstart a more serious DCEU or if it's trying to do what's probably more likely, which is just yeah, like just diving right into like kind of the more campy Silver Age style of comic book movie.
Mhm.
Um, that being said, I guess mainly, can we just talk for a second about the elephant in the room?
Yeah, sure, man.
It's not Ezra Miller as a piece of shit. It's about the Flash being the worst superhero. Like
Yeah,
his villains are god awful, and they're all way weaker than him.
I know
All
we're going to get into this can of worms.
all of his powers make him way too powerful for the stories he's in. Like his problem is like, oh no, a gorilla is robbing the bank with his cohort with his evil fiend Captain Boomerang. And then the Flash is like, and what I have to stop this is the ability to rewrite the fabric of the universe with my super speed time traveling interdimensional. Like I'm like, what? Like, how are you this powerful for like your universe? Like, he is the worst power creep of any hero. And then on top of that, he's just not that interesting to watch. Like he does things really fast in his stupid McDonald's looking ass costume. Like I don't know. Like I'm not a
Yeah.
huge Flash.
You know what? This actually reminds me of like two really great examples that illustrate your problem with the Flash. So the first one, if anybody has watched the is it Gus Gustin? I feel bad. Isn't that his name?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's his name. His name first name's
Okay.
Gus.
Yeah, I just wanted like to give props to that guy, like not disrespecting him. So I find with like Grant Gustin, his version of the Flash, it's actually almost like paradoxical, like how every single like, problem in this show occurs. You get some character. Now they can't do much, and where you have Barry go up and be like, "Hey, stop! There's nowhere to run." And then somehow, like the character will like, or the villain, sorry, will talk forever. Just where like he's just like, "Okay, Barry, now take this random gun or take this random freeze ray," in which he's already faster than, but he's somehow too fucking slow where he could have taken out the guy simply just by running up and punching him real fast. But he never does. He always has to talk to the person, and then he gets stopped. And then for some reason, the characters are gone in like how they outrun Barry. Like they just
Yeah,
disappear. I don't understand. So that is like a great example. And if you guys ever watch that show, there's a great YouTuber who actually goes through it where it's like, stop, there's nowhere to run. Da, 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 da. And then it features the villain who's like, random guy with the freeze ray, random guy who can apparently move, random guy who has a gun, and it's like, why is it guys with guns or super speed his only weakness? That's my problem, and I think.
here's the
Oh,
other thing I don't
sorry.
get.
Okay.
Building on your point,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how good a gun you have if you're fighting the Flash. It's not like you're fighting him and it's like, oh no, I have a 9 millimeter. What I need is a 50 caliber Magnum. It's like, no, you can have a tank gun, you can have a flamethrower, any kind of gun. Because here's the secret: the Flash doesn't survive being shot at because he's really, really invincible. The Flash survives being shot at because he can run really fast and dodge things.
Literally, like
So
anything
it's
he
like,
does.
how is a freeze ray any different than a freaking like pea shooter in this context? Like, I don't get how it's different. Like, why is this a special kind of gun?
But
Um,
exactly. And it's like the freeze guy makes no sense. And here's the funny thing. In the show, he is the one character who like I think shows up like 15 different times and takes out the Flash every fucking time. And also, you know what the fucking solution to his problems are? That everybody they'll just be like, Barry, you have to run so fast and you have never done before. It's like, oh, gee, guys, I can't do that. And then he does it. And then the next time it's like, Barry, you have to go so fast in a circle to make a cyclone. It's the fastest you've ever ran. I don't know if I could do that fast, guys. Ends up fucking doing it. The point that I'm making is that the solutions are usually just fucking run fast, Barry.
yeah,
That,
yeah.
that is it. You know how
So
pathetic that
how
is, though?
contrived it is. It's always like, oh, like I literally saw like a Justice League cartoon where it's like, oh no, there's these bombs that they're gonna destroy the sun, so you have to run on Green Lantern's bridge to the sun so fast that it generates the electricity to, or it's like, oh no, the dimensional portal is closed. But if
If you just
someone
have really good socks and then rub your feet across the carpet millions of times, you might build up enough static
literally
electricity
that's
to
what
touch
it's
the
like,
beam to stop it from moving.
we need someone to vibrate at the frequency of light, but you're not fast enough to do that. And it's like, yes, I. And it's like, how many problems are solved by being super fast? Like,
This is
I
the
can't get
problem. It's like,
it.
oh no, it's already happened. He's released this like incredibly large power where he's going to destroy the Earth. What are we to do? Literally, Justice League Snyder cut runs so damn fast that he reverses time itself to then go and have enough time where he can resume that original moment to then be able to beat it. Are
And
you
here's the thing.
fucking kidding me?
Here's why Flash has bad character design. Good character design, in fact, really good game design too,
Mm-hmm.
is about having characters who have an incredibly strong impact on their worlds, and the world can have an incredibly strong impact on them. What I'm getting at is that we relate to characters that are powerful and vulnerable at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, they can kill a lot of people, and we're afraid that they're going to die. like Luke
Mhm.
Skywalker, right? What can he
Yeah.
do? He has a sword that can cut through anything, but he's just a guy. If you shoot him, he dies. The Flash reverses that, where nothing in the world can ever hit him, but he also doesn't really have any means of attack. You know what I mean? So, like, if the Flash is going to fight someone like General Zod or Brainiac, he's just going to be stuck at something where it's, oh, I guess the villain can't hurt him because he can run so fast, and he can't hurt the villain because the villain's invincible. You know what I mean? It's just kind of it's not
Yeah.
interesting, right? That's why I think this Flash movie. Before we move on, I do want to ask, what do you think of Kara in it? Um,
Um, oh, yes, I will get that in a moment. I just wanna add this last point because this was my second example to proving your issue. There is an episode of the Justice League where Lex Luthor takes control of Barry's body. He's like, "Wait a second, I can now figure out who the Flash is." He takes off the mask, he's like, "Oh, it's some random guy." And because he doesn't know who the fuck it is. That's another thing. Like Barry's just not an interesting character. He's not like really like, oh, if you're going to figure out an identity, it's going to be groundbreaking because nobody really knows him. He doesn't really do much outside. Grant Gustin was really interesting because he was like a forensic, analyst in that sorry, forensic scientist. I'm not going to say analyst because not analyzing anything other than chemicals. Point being is that he's a really interesting character in the Grant Gustin, but in the comics, he's really boring.
yeah, I think. Well, that show actually, I think, did a good job with Flash. And is like probably one of the best examples of him in that they focused on the Flash. First of all, they used the Wally West Flash, which is the funny man. Like that's the Flash who makes jokes and stuff
Mhm.
and has like a sense of humor and drives the Flash van. Like just things like that. Like like he's a bit of a gag. And I do like that that Flash kind of leaned into that. One small thing in that episode where he switches bodies with Lex Luthor,
Mhm.
he uses the washroom and then he starts walking towards the door and one of the other villains says, "Aren't you gonna wash your hands?" And
Yeah.
Flash impersonating Lex Luthor says, "No, because I'm evil."
Oh yeah.
And it was just like it just encapsulated that Flash so well.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it was fucking hilarious, dude. Like just the like no, because I'm evil. And it's just like what the fuck? Like that's just like and I felt like Lex Luthor funny because he just turned into some like, sarcastic drama queen
yeah.
where it's like, who the hell is this? Like you know what I mean? Like oh, it's just such a great like, episode on the Justice League. So going back to what you were saying with Kara, I personally don't have any real care in Kara, if I'm being entirely honest. You know, she like kind of reminds me of Wonder Woman in the what's it called, Joss Whedon version, where she's like, "Hello, no."
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's all I think of Kara because she's just meant to be like, the goody two shoes who's meant to understand the power of Superman as well as be like, completely pure in character. Whereas, obviously Clark Kent is different in that he was raised differently. Kara like was raised on, what was
Candor,
it?
I think it's called. Yeah, the ball.
Candor?
Yeah.
Um, I thought it was Krypton.
Well, Candor is a Kryptonian city that I think is it's dropped in a bottle, like it's a shrunken city,
Oh,
and I
okay.
think because I don't know how is she raised on Krypton if she's younger than him? Like, isn't like that to me that doesn't make sense.
No, no,
Um,
no. Because she was already like pretty much like, she's in her. Would you say she's in her teens or she's like mid 30s or something? Mid
uh,
20s?
yeah, I'll look up. I mean, I think she's younger than Superman, but not by much. She's like a few years younger.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Okay, yeah. But it's like it's so close. Like, so she would have lived on, Candor like for a long time, right?
yeah,
So when you like see her, like, I just don't find it interesting because he's like too pure of a character. And they
yeah,
tried to fix that when she ditched the Superman. You remember, like, I don't even know what the fuck she was named after, but they made it a horrendous costume of her
Power
where
Girl.
Power Girl, where she just like took away like the Superman S, and I'm like, really, guys, really, like,
I mean, okay, they took away the Superman S, and then they just left a big window in her costume. Like it's
yeah,
just
and she's like, it's meant to resemble that I don't support anything, and then it's like, but you It's a very revealing, like, sure, that's the reason why. It wasn't because of the fucking
It's a
pubescent teens
window
gonna
into
fucking
her
read
will.
that.
Like the idea is that when like that's the idea. Like she doesn't have like an outer emblem when you're watching. To say yeah, no. The idea is that it's a window into her soul. Because she doesn't. You're right. She doesn't have an emblem. She has nothing to stand for. She hasn't found herself yet. She's hollow, and that's why everyone watching it is looking into that window because we're interested in looking into her character. It's really fascinating. I'm glad they
Oh
included
my
that.
god. Sorry, I know. It's like, who the fuck pulled that shit out of their ass? Like, they're, they're like, because like the leader's like, guys, this is a big problem. And what are you gonna explain to the fucking fans? Well, the feminists are gonna come after us. He's like, he lives by no emblem. She who got rid of it. It's a window into her.
It is. I don't know what else to tell you. Like,
Sorry, I'm good. I'm good. I find like it's such a like a fucking like last minute pull out the ass idea, like trying to like everybody saw through that bullshit. But I'm not really excited for her Supergirl to come in
okay.
and like it's like maybe like this actress's then like version of her is going to be really interesting and cool. It might change up her character to make it more interesting for those viewers, but I don't know. I've just always like had like a meh opinion when it came to like Power Girl or Supergirl. Either ones are trash. Like you know, I prefer Supergirl as a character over Power Girl because Power Girl just turned her into some generic strong girl. You know,
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Like
like she
super.
had no like what made her interesting was that like, hey, I'm like an innocent person who wants to do better. You know what I mean? Whereas a Power Girl's like, fuck you, I'm strong, puny god. You know what I mean? It just turned into like this weird like you ever realize that like
Yeah,
because like
yeah.
you know Harley Quinn used to like ask her like in the comics to like be that like person who's like you know they always got like these like really like you need to stop, that's not responsible, and then Harley Quinn would basically be like nah fuck you, I'm Harley Quinn, you know what I mean?
I will be honest. I feel like Power Girl is one of those female characters in comics
Mm-hmm.
who literally has no character consistency because, like, between iterations, her personality can just change entirely.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Mary Jane. It's like Mary Jane in the video game versus the like comic
Tobey
books versus
Maguire.
movies. Yeah, like versus the Kirsten Dunst versus Zendaya.
Mm-hmm.
It's like four people who have nothing to do with each other other
True.
than the and Power Girl, like I feel like a lot of like female characters in comics, they're just like, yep, in this version she's just like sultry, in this version she's like a warrior, in this version she's laid back and kind and sweet. Like they go all over the place and
I guess the
it's very
same thing happens with Gwen Stacy, eh? She's kind of the same thing if you can think about it, because like oh my god, okay, I'll bring this back in a moment. We need to talk about the MTV CGI Spider-Man show. We got to mention that because that show, ladies and gentlemen, is so underrated. I might actually do a video essay for my channel just based on
that's
that.
its own podcast. Yeah, I could talk about that for a long
Oh
time.
god, that
Um,
show. Caleb here used to mock it when we were young. Dun dun dun.
yeah,
Dun, dun.
yeah,
Epic face reveal. Dun, dun, dun. And then you had Neil Patrick Harris as Spider-Man.
yes,
Oh my god, it was just something of its time. Everything was good. Everybody wore the same outfits. Everybody, for some reason, all the girls wore this like weird crop top, and like everybody, like all the guys had these weird colored pants and a leather vest or some shit.
yeah.
It was a weird show for its time, but it captured MTV audience, and they left it on a cliffhanger of all things. Anyways, that's all I'm going to say about
Okay,
this. But you continue, sorry.
Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom has reportedly had a screener with
Uh
like
oh.
critics
Yeah.
and executives. And afterwards, and this is just rumors, but afterwards, apparently they looked at each other and they said, "This movie is unwatchable."
No, they
Like,
didn't.
like apparently they were like,
Oh
"This
no.
is fucking trash."
Is this with the replacement of what's her name as the Mira? Amber
Uh,
Heard as Mira? They got rid of her and they still said it's unwatchable?
Yeah, well, honestly, she wasn't even the worst part of the first movie. She was like just mediocre in the first movie. I think it's just like, um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what was wrong with
Oh,
it.
whoops. Yep.
I'm not surprised that there's a bit of a comeback on the internet of people like defending Aquaman and saying he's not that bad. I'm not one of those people. I think he's kind of a lame superhero. Um, Honestly, his girlfriend has cooler powers than him because she controls water and he just controls like fish. And I think controlling water is way cooler than controlling fish.
The only thing is that Jason Momoa is just an attractive actor that they got because they're like, this is going to be for the girls, and then for the guys, he just looks epic and drinks beer with cool waves. Like that's all he does.
They got rid of I know she was evil, but Amber Heard was supposed to be like the hot character that people who like women could look at. Now we only got the hot character that people who like men can look at. Like, what are we doing?
What the fuck? It's
But no, but
just
like we
so,
used to have Amber Heard, where it's like, oh yeah, you like women, like that's the fan service for you. And then we also had Jason Momoa, who was like the
a
most
heartthrob.
masculine, hard throb guy.
Yeah,
And now it's just like,
we're not fanboying over Jason Momoa. He's a fine guy in himself.
you're saying we're not fanboying over Jason Momoa? I don't
We're
know
not
about that. He's
okay.
he's quite I don't know, pretty tough guy, pretty Chad.
He's a
Um,
pretty. He's no. Don't say the chat. We're not bringing that back. That toxic masculinity back. Anyway,
no,
sorry. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say, that's my thoughts on it. What do you think this is gonna be? Good or bad?
Well, originally, if I'm being honest, I love the director because he made the Saw movie as well as he made an additional movie. And I can't think of it right now, but I find that his original Aquaman wasn't that good. I wasn't a huge fan. Like it was good, but it was almost weird because he went with like where were they? Where it was like all the white buildings. It wasn't Greece, was it?
Santorini, I believe.
And the rainy, like the location, it just felt weird. Where like Amber Heard's Mira was like really red hair, and then the white buildings, and then the very light like white with light blue. Like I don't know, the color was really off for me, and it just felt too cartoonish and not consistent. If that
Uh,
makes sense, it focused way too much on like comic booky territory. That kind of
I
took
will
me out of it.
I will go into
Sorry.
my defense. I call it the Fantastic Four defense,
Oh
and
yes.
it's that they've made two Fantastic Four adaptations, and one of them was horrible and one of them was good. And the
Okay,
difference
wait. Oh, well, I'm really interested on what you're going to say for these two. Identify
This is
which
the
one
difference
was
between the
which.
horrible one and the good one is the horrible one tried to make cheesy 60s comics into serious gritty science fiction, and the other one made cheesy 60s comics into cheesy 60s movies. And
Yes.
I think in that sense Aquaman, like, I'm glad that the movie titled Aquaman, like King of Atlantis or whatever, isn't trying to be too serious. Like it's about a guy who rides sharks. Like you know what I mean? Like it's gonna have some fun. It's gonna have some comic bookiness to it. The guy he's fighting has a fucking submarine on his head. Like let's like you know what I mean? Like let's yeah. I think I'm so in
Everybody
that
went
sense.
crazy for that, by the way. Like everybody's like, "It's there! It's the classic fishbowl hat!"
Black
Like,
Manta, yeah. Um, and that's why I sort of thought, like, you know what? Yeah, Aquaman is, it's cheesy, but it is what it is. The actor for Aquaman though was a teenager though was god awful.
it was
Like,
trash. What did he even say?
it's like
No,
Willem
you
Dafoe's
lied to
like,
me.
no, you lied to me. And then Willem Dafoe's like, your mother was held for treason, and then he says, oh, you're saying they executed her? And I'm like, please, please, like, how are you? Like,
You saying they executed her? And it's like, why do you sound like that fucking like 70s like summer flick instead of it being like a Hollywood like film? Like, oh my
he's like
god.
licked his lips and like crowned his eyebrows where he's like, what? No, that's not cool. And then it's like, are you a South Park character? Like, get the fuck out of this movie. So
Get the
yeah.
fuck off my stage. That ain't right. Like, oh man. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it was also weird seeing Willem Dafoe because all I can associate him is more villainy roles. And when he plays like the helpful, like, I'm the what's it called? Side man of okay, sorry, that sounds bad. Um I'm just like, the royalties assistant or whatever. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But I see like the Green Goblin. You know what I mean? Every time I see him. And if I want to see him in a DC movie, I want it to be as a Joker because I think he would do a great Joker. I know we've had so many. It would just please my soul to know that he would be a Joker because I think he would be like the best version too. And that
Yeah.
creepy balance between like, you know, the canny versus the, dark gritty. Have you seen, like, the joke, like, artwork for it, but, like, the actual that looks amazing?
Uh, the artwork for Joker.
Mhm.
I've seen some of it. I really have no idea how good or bad that film's going to be. I have no idea how it's going to work, but also I have faith in the director and the cast. So I am, yeah, with that movie, I'm kind of, I'm just, it's an open book.
Oh, wait, are you talking about, like, Joker 2?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking. I was just mentioning, like, shoot, Willem Dafoe as, like, the Joker.
Yeah. Oh no, sorry. I thought you were. Sorry. I thought you asked a question
No,
about like.
but that actually leads into the next cover because we have to cover a Joker 2 as well as the Batman
Yes.
2. I've seen some on street footage for the movie, and I think it's gonna be awesome. There's also photos of like, Lady Gaga as Harley Quinn. Apparently they're changing the background, like how they actually met and how they engaged like together within Arkham. And I'm really excited to see how they're going to take that. And apparently it's going to be a weird musical. But the little like sequence that I saw that was on set was you had Joaquin Phoenix in this like gray suit running, and then there's the version from like the last movie running behind him, and then there's a third character that gets hit by that's also him gets hit by a car, and it's like, yo, what the fuck is gonna go on here? Because it seems like they're going to almost do like this weird, like, delusion, like hallucination, where it's like his personality's been split into three different iterations of himself. And I
Okay.
think that would be fucking amazing.
In like 2016, the comics did a reveal.
Those three
Um.
Jokers.
Yes. Which I can't believe I'm like. It's so like as back in 2016, I was like, whoa, oh my god, this is genius. And
Yeah.
now I look back on, I'm like, wait, the world's greatest detective has been fighting this guy for 3 decades, and he never figured out on any level that it wasn't the same dude. Like this guy, Batman needs to hang up his cape. This guy sucks. Like you anyway. So that reveal honestly
Yeah. I
was kind of like you're not the detective
okay,
Batman.
I do agree from that perspective because I actually just started playing Arkham Asylum, and
Yeah,
one of the best moments is how, Batman's taking him. It's like he even says to Gordon, he's like, something must be wrong. He let me capture him without even trying. He was fine to go. And it's just like he knows something's off with him, even how like happy he is to be in Arkham Asylum again. It's
yeah,
very like uncanny. And that's the whole point, is because he's the world's greatest detective. So the fact that he wouldn't understand that there's a personality change and also a somewhat like interesting um attire change as well. Like, do you think that the Joker just got new threads and was, like, acting slightly different and you're, like, liking
I
it? Looking
I think in
good?
this movie it's probably going to be something like delusional. I
Mhm.
don't know, or it could be the three Jokers thing, where like Joaquin Phoenix is the first of three Jokers.
I
Uh,
think it's hallucination based. I think they're just kinda gonna pay tribute to the character, the comic, where there was, like, 3 iterations. However, it's gonna be like hallucinations because he's actually separated his entire construct of reality into 3 broken parts. So,
yeah,
which it's like one's like the serious working side that he used to be. One's gonna be like, the actual Joker that was manifested all along, and then the third one could be maybe like Arthur Fleck.
yeah, yeah. There's just kind of like a I think that's probably the direction to go.
Mhm,
Like, I honestly, I actually think either could work, but I think you're right. Like, if they continue with like the hallucination theme, that could be interesting.
mhm.
Uh, I also think that there's something to be said about like, what do you think about how they're going to implement Harley Quinn in this? Like, do you think she's going to be well done? Do you think Lady Gaga can pull it off? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think that she can pull it off. She's demonstrated that she is willing to go the mile for all of her acting roles. You can go all the way back to Star is Born, like, she was, like, that really proved that she was a really great actress and that she has those acting abilities. And then we went to Gucci. Now I don't know if you watch Gucci, and it's kind of funny because she's like, I'm an Italian. I was so glad to be able to do my Italian accent. And it's like, okay, cool. But she actually pulls off an Italian accent. And if I don't know if you've like saw the movie Killa, but the whole thing is that she murdered like the main guy who like took control of Gucci, who was like a crazy wife, and murdered him and got him assassinated because he divorced her and didn't want her back.
I didn't know about that movie, but I don't doubt like that she is a good actress. I think she just strikes me as a fairly like intelligent, creative person. I
Mhm.
know like whatever she's controversial and stuff, but yeah, no, like
Like the
I
meat
think
suit.
yeah, like she was just kind of an edge lord. Um,
Yeah.
but there's something that I see as interesting where so it's a small secret that I fucking hate Harley Quinn as a character. Like, oh
I
my
think you have too much hatred for that character.
god. As someone who reads comic books, you appreciate a certain flow between panels of trying to read at a decent pace and internalize a story. Um, it's difficult to do that when you have like massive speech bubbles that are covering up half of the art that say, "Oh, Patooey, I got to go to oh lollipop." What the? It's like stop to, and everything has the stupid like apostrophes in it, like it's never properly spelt words. So it takes 5 times as much effort to read. Um, like you know what I mean? It's just a really annoying. Like I find her kind of obnoxious to be honest as a character. Just
Yeah.
um, she's kind of like
Actually,
Deadpool, but like appeals to like some weird fetishes with like people. Like I don't know, it's like fan service Deadpool. Sorry, I
yeah.
like
I
her,
I mean, that's
but
an interesting, like, opinion on the character. See, it's actually funny because I was, like, thinking about her, like, because I was playing Arkham Asylum about, like, how she acts in that one. First off, I like how in, like, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, she actually demonstrates that she is very smart, in fact. She just has a crush for Joker, but and that's how she's crazy, because remember how did you ever watch Birds of Prey? That was a good movie, I don't care what
I
people
did
say.
watch Birds of Prey. Yes,
I thought it was really good. But she's like, I remember how the kid's like, how can I be like you? And she's like, first off, no one can be like me. First, you have to go through a troubled life where you're filled with abuse. Then you decide you want to get your PhD in like what's it called? Psychoanalysis. And then once you do that, you're going to like help people and you're going to be a patient. And then you're going to fall, like, I see this crazy man. And then you're going to fall in love with that said crazy man. And I liked how it's like, she is very like smart and, like, she's like a gymnast or whatever. I don't like how in the comics what they usually do is just make her this, like, all put in, like, all this, like, kinda like, really? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, they gave her
Um,
more, like, to do, and I think that the Margot Robbie's gonna be, like, more of, like, a crazy person rather than "Oh gosh, Putin, I almost you," like, that kind of version. I think it's
it's
gonna be
like
more that dark territory.
yeah, like I read like a Wonder Woman comic with her, and like every like yeah, it was just like Wonder Woman's trying to save the day, and then you got like Harley Quinn always there messing with her, so whatever. Wonder Woman's like, oh Harley, you goofball, and Harley's like, I released a bunch of hamsters into the battlefield. It's like just anyways, but
Yeah,
no,
it's distracting a lot of the time.
and that's why I do think um I do kind of like when they focuses more as like this is the story of someone who got into an abusive relationship and has Stockholm syndrome with the Joker. That I find to be a more interesting
Mhm.
idea.
Well, and I
It's
think it's gonna be really good too because the fact that the Joker's rated R. So was the
yes,
first one, same as the second one.
that,
And I find that rated R rating is gonna like explore the territory that the original Iron cut for sorry, not Spider, oh my God, Suicide Squad was originally going to tackle, right? Where they almost went into that, like they recorded like rated R content, like where torture scenes and showing how this is not a good relationship, but they cut it out, which I think is kind of problematic of Hollywood's meetings and stuff that they want to project into this mainstream society.
yeah,
However, going back, the point that I'm making here is that they're actually exploring some really unfound, like, creepy, crazy, like, like, this is obviously Stockholm Syndrome at its finest, and I think that we're gonna but it's what they do, right? Which
Stockholm
means they
syndrome
they
at its
both
finest.
Sorry, that's probably really bad. I should retract that statement. Not put it on a T-shirt or anything. Let's sell
This is the
it.
finest Stockholm syndrome I've ever seen. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, as far as abuse goes, this is it's the French brandy of abuse, you might say. Uh,
You did.
yeah. um,
Okay, I meant it as in like this is going to be more of like that really complex analysis of how these relationships unfold in such a horrendous way, and
yes.
that's what I meant. I didn't mean like fine branding and shit like that. Like Joker 2 is where Stockholm syndrome is at its finest. Take a back seat, Bella. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's
Yeah.
oh
Um,
man.
but no, you're right. Like, um, you're definitely right. Like, I think I'll put it this way: if anyone can make me appreciate the character of Harley Quinn, it's probably like this movie, like this team and this cast. Um, Switching to a bit of a lighter note,
Mhm.
or maybe a bit of a darker note on the color spectrum, Blue Beetle. What do you think of him?
You didn't just do that. You did not just say like the next, it's gonna take a a bit of a different turn, a darker turn, might say, based on the color spectrum. Why did you
Yeah,
like here
yep.
I'm thinking I'm like, oh shit, is he gonna like talk about some dark material right here? And then you're saying blue fucking beetle?
I was gonna say let's take a lighter tone, and I'm like, oh yeah, blue is a cool color. This isn't a lighter tone; it's a
A
darker tone.
doy.
Doy.
Okay. Blue
Um,
Beetle, I'm gonna say I'm actually kind of excited. I do like Blue Beetle in the game because it'll be like he's basically just like a kid teenager or whatever, where he like says like he's basically like DC Spider-Man, if I could say that.
yeah, yeah,
I
I can
think it's
sit
a
with that.
fair. He's silly, he's goofy, and he quips a lot. And it's like that version. Now he has different powers, but come on, Blue Beetle, Spider-Man.
Kind of like Iron Spider. Like he's like
Yeah.
agile and quick, but also his power is that like he's all tech. Like that's his thing.
But
Um,
it's weird because he's blue, and I don't get that because I thought, oh, like is he like a weird alien creature, robotic creature? And I'm like, no, he's in a suit. And I'm like, well, why? What?
it's not a suit; it's his body. It's he has something called the Scarab in him, which is like a nanotech type thing. It's like a symbiote. It's
Oh,
basically
okay.
it's basically like a Venom symbiote that makes him into the Iron Spider. That's the
Oh,
simplest way
okay. So
to explain it.
nanotech.
It's like alien nanotech, yeah.
Okay,
Into
gotcha. I mean, okay, that was actually really interesting. Thank you, because I find that makes it actually like now I understand why he's blue. I never really put much thought into it. I thought it was meant to be like a cool color scheme match with the bug. You know, that's maybe a little bit of a redundancy, but that's okay. Anyways, point is, I'm excited for Blue Beetle. I think that it has some potential, especially because the guy from what was that Netflix karate show that they based it off Karate Kid? But it's like the TV show
Oh,
Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai. They got the Cobra Kai actor who plays I think Miles or
yeah,
Milo, I think. I don't know.
yeah,
It's been a while since I watched that. But I really like that actor in that show, and given like how silly the show is too, I still
yeah,
respect the actor's, more dramatic performance and like his ability to go in that direction, but he's still lighthearted and and I like to see that, and I'm glad to see that actor in that role.
yeah. That's true. I think just to give some of my thoughts on it, I loved Blue Beetle as a kid. I thought he had a really cool power set. Like his whole thing is like, oh no, I need to fly. I guess my back will turn into a jetpack, and then he flies, and then it's
Hmm.
like, oh no, I need to scan for radiation. I need to, and then his eyes will transform into like night vision infrared goggles. He was that kind of like yeah, like a lot like yeah, just like he was like an Iron Man type character, and yeah, I think he had fun stories. I don't know much about him, but I think it could be good. There's a fear of this being kind of mid, like it could be a really mediocre movie if not done properly. But
It might
um,
be. It has like that Black Adam mentality almost where it could reach that like you meant to make it a cool film and it just turned to be kind of cringy.
okay, can I talk about a movie that I think is going to be bad
Go
now?
right
Can I
ahead, my
say
friend.
that? The Brave and the Bold. Give me your thoughts.
Even the bull. I I thought that was a Batman thing.
It's a Batman movie.
Wait,
It's a Batman movie.
but how are they going to do it?
It's according to this description. While Robert Pattinson's Batman will continue on in Elseworlds, the DCU will get its own Batman in The Brave and the Bold, based
Oh
on Grant
yeah,
Morrison's
that's the
Batman.
second. You mean the second chapter of Gunn's universe, right?
Yeah, the film will introduce the
Okay.
DCU's Bat family, um, and also introducing our favorite Robin, Damian Wayne, who is the
Mhm.
little son of bitch assassin murderer. Um,
Did you say bitch assassin?
that's what this says. I'm just reading.
I don't think you're reading.
No, that's what. No, it's a quote from James Gunn. Like that's what James Gunn said. He said he's a little son of the bitch assassin murderer. Um, and that's the yeah. So I don't know. That's a movie that's happening. I want your thoughts on it.
I mean, sorry if you heard a ding. I think that I don't know. I'm kind of conflicted with that. I don't know. Personally, with Batman, I don't know. I'm not excited for honestly for like Superman or Batman and James Gunn's iteration. I feel like they're going to be more comic booky because that's just his style. And I don't want to see a Superman. I've never been a fan of Superman either. As when you make a guy so powerful, like there's good like villains, sure, like Lex Luthor and Darkseid sometimes, but I just don't find it that interesting. Like, would you say that? Like, it's kind of hard to make it different. And
I I think that there's a balance to how much power your character should have.
yeah,
Personally, I think that that balance is met in like that it's no secret that both of us love Spider-Man because
yep.
Spider-Man has enough of powers that if five guys with guns jump out, he's not like that's not impossible to beat. He's Spider-Man. But at the same time, like Spider-Man, if there's a wall, Spider-Man's not just gonna like smash his head through it and march through. Like that's what I mean. It feels like he still has to navigate around obstacles. Whereas if Superman finds out that there's a guy in Australia about to kill someone, he can literally just fly straight through the planet if he wanted to and be there and then kill that
Mhm.
guy. I was like,
It's
okay,
more
like
like how can he like do it in a convenient way instead of killing and destroying it? I think.
that's what I mean. It's like the problem becomes like, oh, Superman could just evaporate the city with his heat vision, but he's not going to do that. And yeah, so no, I think you're right. Superman's a little OP. Um, but the I was gonna say I don't like the Batman, the Brave and the Bold because my reason for not being excited for it is because it's going to be all about the Bat family, which I can't express how little I care about like the sibling rivalry between Nightwing and Damian, like the Damian Robin. Um,
Yeah, the all like so many different types of Robins. I think
like
their biggest problem is that they should have like expanded because the only thing you can really think of, okay, is Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, and Red Hood, right? But
yes,
they got those different identities after they were already identified as Robin for so long, and it's just trash. Like I hate that so much because they dress them on the same costumes, and trying to understand who's who is so confusing.
yeah,
And I feel like
yeah,
if they do that, they're just gonna get confused. The only one I'm like, okay, yeah, like there's like obviously Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, and then you have Damian Wayne, but then there's Dick Grayson, and then there's like, is there Tom, Tim, Tim
um,
Drake? No,
oh yeah. There's Tim Drake, Damian Wayne,
yeah,
um, Dick Grayson. You got those three.
yeah,
Jason Todd. Jason Todd.
Jason Todd, right? Because he's the Red Hood. Thank you. Okay, it took me a little bit to kind of like to get that for a second. But that's my problem is that there's too much to focus on, and I'm sorry, but the audience has like grown to have more of a shorter attention span when it comes to like watching these films and being able to have complex stories. Not that they can't handle complex stories, but it's when it's like, especially when it's comic book, you need to make it fun, pop, it's simple.
Well,
It took sorry.
I was gonna say I disagree with that. Where I hate the Bat family because it feels like it's just trying to tell a really lighthearted story in a really dark universe. Like
Mhm.
the Batman is a middle-aged, mentally disturbed detective who is tracking criminals who kidnap people and then expose them to psychedelic gases and to give them like nightmares that freaking terrify them beyond their wildest dreams. Or he's hunting down criminals who were like trying to assassinate the mayor and like leave his head in the middle of the street. Like I feel like to have Batman and this really dark character, and then try to also have like rom com X-Men style banter of like, oh, but also I have like these four teenagers at home, and whose turn is it to clean out the microwave? And I'm like, can we not tell this story in my Batman comic? Like, can we kind of keep the teenagers out of it?
Yeah, and then when the problem is like I understand from a narrative like how you can make the stories a little more complex and almost anxiety inducing. For
Yeah,
example, there's Jason Todd. Oh, what happens when like Batman is not able to save Robin this time? He's a fucking kid, and they show that like it's actually quite tragic and sad, and how Batman just loses everything in his life as a result of that. And I think that I'm like, hey, that's a great narrative. But to have the whole family be fine all the time in your universe, it's not fun. It's just kind of weird. And
yeah,
it's also kind of disturbing how he's taking all these like kids that of his under his belt to become a fine like a
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like crime fighting guy. It's weird.
You got this rich playboy billionaire with no wife who shows up at the orphanage, right? And he lives on this like weird, like gothic manor on the edge of town with his butler, and he leans into like the receptionist of the orphanage, and he says, "I'm gonna need your most flexible little boys.
Oh
I need
no.
to adopt all
Not
your most flexible little boys." And then they're like, "Really? Do you want to like meet them first?" And he's like, "No, that's okay. We don't need to meet them. Just let me see them. Let me see their acrobatics and their little tights." As soon as he
oh
sees Dick Grayson,
no.
that's like it's a little suspicious, Bruce. Like this is a little sus.
Whoa.
Um,
Wait. Whoa,
yeah.
whoa.
Because he keeps saying he's like, I want the little acrobat boy, and he sees him in those. He sees him in that stupid like the tights that I've known, like the pants where it's just like an
The
underwear shirt.
leggings?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
sees it and he's like, I need that 9-year-old. It's like Bruce, like this is a little
I
um
never realized how disturbing that was. Oh my god.
like I don't know that you can just adopt kids once you see them like in their gymnastics. Like I don't know, it's just kind of weird. He has no wife.
Yeah.
Like it's just um
Yeah, I know, but and then there was also like, you remember the Killing Joke movie? How they made it so Barbara Gordon sleeps with Batman? It's like, whoa, you took this girl out of your belt and she's younger than you, and then you slept with her. And not only that, when she wanted a relationship with you, you're like, sorry, it was a mistake. And it's like you're covering that shit up like you're fucking Cosby. Like what the fuck? Like why
I
are you
saw
so
some like
pedo when you like that's so
I
bad?
saw some like video joke. I think it was photoshopped, but it was still funny. Someone posted that as the thumbnail in like the Pornhub style like box, and it said,
Boom, ticka, ticka, doom,
40,
boom.
yeah, it was like 40-year-old man smashes best friend's teenage daughter, and
Oh!
it was just like that, like
And it's
Batman YouTube
so
picture.
weird too. It's so weird because like I did not like. Oh god. It's just so bad on so many levels, and I'm just like, especially when you put it like that, it just makes the story so much more disturbing.
Yeah,
How do we get to this, man? How do we? What were we originally even saying?
yeah, and I don't know. Like it's really weird. I don't know why they butchered the comic like that. Um, I do think that
Oh, right, we're
uh,
talking about Brave and the Bold. Sorry, I was just like, how do we get down this rabbit hole?
yeah, we're going through. We only have a few more DC movies left.
Okay,
Um,
fair enough.
one of them is called The Authority. Neither of us know what the fuck that is, so we're gonna move on.
Yep,
Um,
I have no clue.
okay, Supergirl, World of Tomorrow. I think we already talked about
We already
Supergirl.
know about Kara. Yeah,
We
we're
don't need
just
to
gonna
go
skip that.
um, Swamp Thing, based on the novel by Alan Moore.
Okay,
Thoughts?
that's gonna be fucking good because
Yeah,
they already. This is what I don't get. You see, a lot of people, what we're gonna go on to The Last of Us in a second. I think it's going to make a great transition in a little bit. Everybody says that Last of Us was the best, like, game adaptation. You want to know what else was a really great adaptation, even for a comic book? Like, I know it's not game territory, but Swamp Thing. When they made that into a TV show, they added all of these like practical effects. They filmed it dark and gritty, great story, great characters. It was like the HBO, like, if HBO did the Swamp Thing,
Yes.
and it was amazing. And then you know what happened? Warner Brothers was like, yeah, the fans like it. Yeah, we're just not feeling it. And then they
Well,
stopped.
that's a real problem because like Swamp Thing is an example of like a truly unique and interesting character. Like he's not like any other superhero, and he's so different that I sometimes used to question like, wait, is he even in the DC canon? And it's like, oh no, he's in it. He's just he's really eccentric. And I think that he's like he deserves a movie. I think it'll be I think it'll be really good. I'm interested to see what they do with it. The dark noir Alan Moore style. For those of you who don't know, Alan Moore is the comic book writer who
Did
penned
Watchmen, right?
Watchmen, The Killing Joke, V for Vendetta, and Miracle Man, which are four legendary comic books. For those of
Yeah,
you,
he's a great comic book author. It's just
yeah,
fantastic. See, that's why I'm
that's
excited because like Swamp Thing, if it's a movie, it's gonna be fucking great. There's also gonna be TV shows in his James Gunn's universe too, right? That are gonna be as well as video games that are going to be canon for the universe.
oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I'm kind of curious on how he's going to have us hand on that.
do
So,
you?
oh,
It's
sorry, you
okay
go.
if you don't have an answer. I was just gonna say, do you know what Swamp Thing's background is? Like, I don't know much about the character. I just know that he looks cool.
I think that it's a more like voodoo, like in the South Swamps kind of thing,
Oh,
where it's like he something happened where he was on his deathbed essentially, and he went into the swamp. I think he was murdered and jumped in the swamp, and then he got these powers like of voodoo magic. It was really
he's like a
weird.
horror story, isn't he? Like he
He's
started
a
from like a
horror story.
yeah,
It would be like something that Edgar Allan Poe would have made.
yeah. That's really cool. I think that has potential to be the best movie on this list. Um, yeah, no, and that's I think we've pretty much covered every title. Now I want to ask you, um, which heroes are you disappointed that are not on this list or do not have incarnations in this upcoming DCU?
I mean, I know you could say like Green Lantern because they could make that an epic movie. I don't know. I feel like he's really trying to like I can't really like specify what I would want to see because he needs to get the foundation, right? And I think this is important. He essentially said, okay, if we were to take the DC characters and separate them in like three different categories of chapters of universes, how are we going to do this? And he went, all right, so we have like the Misfit of Island Toys, which is like, the external universe, whatever, the
Yeah.
what it was it called? DC Elseworlds. And then he's
Hmm.
like, okay, what about next? Oh, well, monsters. What was it? What was it? Something in monsters?
Gods
Heroes
and
and
monsters. Yeah.
gods and monsters. That's great because there's so many gods, there's so many weird creatures. You get everything in that. And then you got the Brave and the Bold, which is like, okay, for other than like, Superman, because there's like the Bat family. I think that those three chapters perfectly captured the foundation for the universe. And I'm not gonna say that I'm disappointed. Like I know like I shat on a lot of what we just talked about, but I find that for like their establishment foundation, it's not a bad start. It's a good start. They're capturing all your important things that you need to cover for a universe that's not like Marvel.
I I agree. Um, I do. I think it's good they're setting up a foundation. And I'm glad that they're paying serious attention to their Elseworld stories too, because as you know, I think that DC has great potential to tell like individual stories more so than how should we put it? Like, uh, yeah, I guess like more so than I maybe the more cinematic universe style that we're used to. So I definitely see the appeal there. I will say there are a few heroes that I'm disappointed are being left out, and I do want to ask your thoughts on them because maybe
Okay.
I'm just being a fanboy, but maybe they actually have a chance. Um, Martian Manhunter. Um,
He should
he,
be in the Gods movie.
yeah, I agree. I think he's, in my opinion, a little bit cooler than Superman. No shade to Superman, but I mean, he's green and he's got like weird alien magic to him. Like he can phase through objects and he has telepathy. Like I always just liked that kind of more like
He
interesting.
can
Yeah,
change his
alien.
identity at will, and
Yeah, like
he's an alien, but he actually acts like an alien, unlike Clark. Because I don't think of Clark as an alien.
yeah, and one other thing about his alien nature is that he's vulnerable to fire, which
Mhm.
is a weakness that's really common in like any sort of warfare. Like you have a grenade, like you got this guy's weakness, like he's but at the same time he can like he's super powerful but also really vulnerable in that way. Um I think he's also more wise and stoical. He's got a bit of a Silver Surfer personality to him. Um so I think okay, I think we're in agreement. He should have some inclusion in this. Um Another one I just want your thoughts on. Wonder Woman doesn't have a big spotlight in this universe. Are you happy with that, or do you think she should have more of a say?
I'm kind of fine. Well, apparently they're making a Wonder Woman 3, I believe I saw, because they're adding like her in Shazam, and I think it's now in an Elseworlds territory. It's really weird. I'm kind of fine without Wonder Woman. I thought her own standalone movie was good. I think like it was great. 1984 was trash. Justice League was trash. Snyder Cut was okay. I kind of didn't mind that, except for the weird like singing that was a choir. I don't even remember. It was some weird like yeah yeah yeah, but like something like I don't know. What was that weird like it was like some weird screaming that like very like reminded me of those like kind of Greek singers. Anyways, you get what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Like those old
yeah,
like Greek anthology, or
yeah.
mythology,
I know what
sorry,
you're
kind of
saying.
thing.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Um.
going back, I am fine with her being out because she just they tried it with her. They tried with Zack Snyder to do a dark gritty. They tried to make her more like a paternal thing, and then they made her more like the justice. I think the justice works for her. I just don't think that they want to focus on that, and if they do, it's got to be in that gods and monsters chapter.
Okay. I agree. I think they should give her not her own story, but like a big role in another story. The next, I have three more for you. Just
Okay,
just to ask you about. One of them is the question. Um, he's like DC's Rorschach. He's a detective without a face, and he's also a crazy libertarian conspiracy theorist. What do you think of him? Do you think he should have a role in this universe in any way, or just
I mean, I think he would be interesting, but not for the found. Again, this is the foundation, right? He doesn't really fit into anywhere, right? Like, so I think that he would be in the more extended. If anything, I would see it as like an Elseworlds kind of movie.
okay? That's fair. I actually see that as pretty fair. He's more of a one-off, more like a what if, like put him in type character.
Yeah,
Um, and then the other ones for mainline is we got to talk about the Jolly Green Giant himself, Green Lantern, founding member of the Justice League,
yep.
rival to Superman in power, and cornerstone of the universe in terms of lore.
He should have
Uh,
been in Gods and Monsters. Again, like I just see him in that.
yeah. Which Green Lantern do you think they should have if they have him in this universe?
Not Hal Jordan.
Yes,
That's
agreed.
just honestly anybody else other than Hal Jordan is fine. Hal Jordan pisses me off because he'd be like, "How do I deal with the situation? Oh, a big fucking steam train. What?"
Yeah, he's a little 60s ish, I admit. Um,
It's like, and then remember with that comic where Batman got the rig and just fucking obliterated everything around him? It's like
yes.
that's who I want to be, and I feel like any other iteration of Green Lantern avoided that. Like they're like, "Yep, we got to avoid this flaw where he's just silly and goofy. He needs to be a little more serious because that actually adds to his intellect is key to his success."
They made a Green Lantern movie last year about John Stewart as a Marine, like learning to become a Green Lantern and him overcoming his like PTSD as a veteran. And I thought that was really cool. I think that actually makes a lot of sense. So I think he's who I'd want. Also, I think if they do Green Lantern, for the sake of heaven and earth, do not make him fight the Yellow Lantern Corps because that's such a lame conflict. Make him fight the Rage Corps or, one of the more interesting and nuanced ones, rather
Mhm.
than just the lesson is not to be afraid. Like that, it's like okay, like we can do better than this. Um, yeah, no, I'm in agreement. The last character, I actually we've never talked about this character before.
Okay.
Um, what do you think of Black Canary? And do you think she could hold her own standalone film in one of these
Um,
universes?
Usually Black Canary is associated with the Green Arrow and the Flash.
Yes.
So I think that what they should do, that would be a film for the second kind of like phase of DC, because it's, I don't think it's a foundation, and they need to include it into like the Green Arrow family.
Yeah, I think you're right. Green Arrow and Flash go along with her pretty well. I think she's a really cool character.
Yeah,
Um,
there's
the
another
powers.
guy. I can't remember. She has a boyfriend. It's like Hawk guy, maybe. I don't know. I can't remember the guy's name. Point
Her
is, she doesn't have
boyfriend.
like a boyfriend character, which she's really good with. In that, I don't think she's able to support her own movie. She seems like a more of a group character that she benefits with a group on her own. Not that she's a bad character. She just doesn't have much. She plays off other people a lot better than she is like by her own lonesome. Which is why in all of her comics, you never really see her on her own too much.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I haven't read many of her own comics, but I do have to agree that she's kind of a she goes well with other characters. Or maybe I'm just not giving her a fair shake. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's actually it. That's we've now covered the DCU as
Okay.
far as far as content, and boy were we
Yes.
thorough with that.
Yeah,
I
you know what? We are thorough, but we captured everything. This is like a great bundled episode for you guys, because
Yes,
now we got to that first half, where we're talking about the conversation that we left off last week with the DCEU and where they're going to go. Now it is time for a comic book at not comic book, sorry, video game adaptation, The Last of Us, episode 8 and 9, because we didn't do 8 yet, not to my knowledge, and we got to do the last two for you guys in the audience here. Listen to this podcast. So, Caleb, without further ado, what'd you think of episode 8?
I'm gonna offer you a crossroads. Okay,
Okay.
we've gotten 2 episodes of The Last of Us. In the past, we've talked about 1 episode for like the entire time.
Yes.
We have 2 of them this time. Do we want to shoehorn the finale of this season and our analysis of that versus the game into the end of this episode? Or do you
Yes.
want to try and make it its okay?
We're just gonna go right. We're gonna fucking shoot ball
Okay,
that
let's do
shit.
it. Let's do it. Let's do the double feature episode. Okay.
Double feature picture show. Sorry.
I absolutely loved the iconic moment in the Last of Us game of a man with a gun.
Wait, are we on episode 8 though?
I'm jumping. You told me to jump
I,
in. I'm
I
jumping.
said we gotta do 8 and 9. We should combine it. Go through that linearly.
Okay. I don't think we can cover both.
We can
I
do
I'm
it. I'm telling you.
okay.
Here, you want me to go first?
Sure. Yeah, you go first.
Okay. First off, episode 8. It's winter and Ellie has to like save Joel. So like she's like hunting for him and needs to like hunt like the bunny, as well as like she finds a deer. And this is where we get the like episode where David is introduced and his cannibalistic society. And in the game, this was a great reveal for so many levels. And I think that what I liked about this episode was how they layered it with this kind of weird religious cult leader like mentality. However, it was slightly different than in the game because we never really had this cult figure. It was more like he was supporting the group and this is what he had. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, Caleb, of what you thought of this more religious cult figure that David was supposed to be. Did you like it? Did you agree with it? Or did you maybe not enjoy it that much? What are your thoughts?
I think that there are pretty deep Christian undertones to the Last of Us story, in my opinion. Uh,
Okay.
Particularly with Ellie and it's one specific theme where it explores this idea. In the games, they reference a song about this. Um, it's really the idea that humanity doesn't really deserve saving on some visceral level.
Okay.
That Ellie is this little ray of sunshine, this little beam of perfection in the game, and we are going to effectively crucify her in order to save the whole of the human race and save them from death and destruction. And ironically, she's the only one in this whole world that probably doesn't deserve to die at all. Everyone else is like just a demon of a person.
Yeah.
And I think that's really David plays into that as a perfect justification of why Joel did what he did in the finale, where David is an example of a human who just doesn't deserve saving. And he is kind of an antichrist figure where those who are familiar, the antichrist sort of poses as this Christian leader, but really deep down he's sort of dark and twisted and satanic. Where David halfway through reveals he's not really a Christian. He's actually kind of worships the cordyceps, and he's kind of on the side of them and their infectious love. And his idea of love is, he says, what are the cordyceps? Are they evil because they care for each other and if necessary use violence just to cure its future? And it gave me chills how creepy he was. So I have to say he was really, really well done, as I felt like a true antagonist in this series. Um, they adapted the games really well for that, the winter combat. And I'd say the fight with David wasn't quite as scary as the game, but it came close.
Okay. Wait. Did you say that the David didn't reach the actual the heights as the game?
Not the fight at the end. Like, I wasn't as scared of the show as I was during the game.
Okay. All right. I see what you mean. I do understand on some of the levels that you did mention. Personally, for me, I didn't mind this David, but I'm like when I first saw like this religious guy, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is like interesting. And then he slaps the girl, and I'm like, oh, okay, so we're getting that asshole pastor. But here's the thing. This is where it quickly falls apart is when he starts getting these like cult feature mentality. Because why the fuck are these people following him? If you take a second, because originally you're like religion, okay? He took up religion and is getting these people to go with him and follow him, because they believe in God. I'm like, that works for David. And when they go into this, actually, I don't care about like, religion. I use that for them. But he's like also implicitly like, implied to people that, hey, I'm fine with like, touching kids in a weird way and having sexual things, as well as slapping your child. It's like he wasn't voted. To me, when they said, "Oh, it was a Democratic vote," when they did that, I'm like, okay, but he doesn't have any of these cult figure mentalities. He's not incredibly eccentric, like and like such as like Jonestown. When you look at it like that, he's very much like, oh, I say a religious text that I don't really believe in, and you guys will follow me or else. But you know what I mean? I just didn't feel like his leadership was very awkward. He didn't seem like the "I'm protecting this community" guy like he was in the game. Like that's what they implied in the game. Like he was a nice guy, and the whole point of it was that you fight alongside him and you trust him. He seems like a nice guy, and then he deceives you in the end, and that's what was neat about it.
Yeah, it was more convincing in the game that he was a genuinely trustworthy guy.
Hmm.
Um,
The
I
show
gotta
was
give you that.
the
Yeah.
show. The show doesn't make any sense when they do it like that, and I'm
Well,
like, oh, sorry, you go.
I would say there's an old expression: when everyone loses your head, you'll be the tallest one in the room.
Hmm.
And I think David's definitely bought into that line of reasoning where he was calm and he was fearless. And in a world where everyone else was filled with turmoil and anxiety and dread and grief and guilt and distress, David was a man with no fear, no guilt, no real anger. He was actually a little bit happy that the apocalypse came. And because of that, I think that attracted these weak people. I think he attracted broken people to him, um, that were willing to sort of go along with this and his sort of promise of hope. And I think that's
Okay.
sort of the poison he brought. um, that they were, because in this situation, you see the way he interacts with people. He's not like a strongman dictator. Like the way he rules isn't like, "I'll break your face if you disobey my orders." He rules through this weird idea of faith, that he has faith, and his faith is what gives him his power. And other
Yeah.
people who don't really have faith in their own survival kind of cling to him in that sense. That was my interpretation, but it's
Okay.
open to multiple. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I just because like I look at it like when you look at it from like a cult leader perspective, where he seems to try it like that. That's what the I got when I saw that he's trying to be like a cult leader to them, and that they are like are following his delusions into a better life. Because like that would be to me a really cool concept in The Last of Us,
Hmm.
and instead they try to go into like he's a mixture of this religious kind of non-cult cult leader. Does that make sense? He didn't have the mentality, and I feel like nobody would actually follow him. I know you mentioned, like, the broken person understanding where, these people, they just look to somebody who seems like they have it under control. It just doesn't work for me. Like, if somebody slapped my child, I would be like, "Yo, you better back the fuck up." You know what I mean? It's one thing to be confident, but it's another thing to actually disrespect and, like, harm other people.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to that. Well, there is real psychology of people in like abusive situations, with the stuff they'll end up tolerating. And he did do textbook abusive relations where he slaps her and then he bends down and he puts his hand out for her to hold. And that's the DNA, as they put on the Last of Us podcast, that's the DNA of an abusive relationship. So I think it's sort of implied that he was like a master of like domestic abuse and manipulation of how he got away with that.
Yes, I
Um,
but the thing was that, like, on such a grand scale, it doesn't work, especially when everybody could easily overpower you and have the guns. Do you know what I mean? It just seemed weird in that regard, and it was almost like a disposition of my ability to believe in what was happening.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. I'm not going to say it was the most realistic. To me, it was realistic enough that I could buy it. If there's one thing I had trouble buying was actually Kathleen as a leader. Like Kathleen in Kansas City sort of gave me vibes of like, really, are we sure about her? Um,
I
like,
think it worked given the story circumstances and the context that they give you of what just happened and why they're following. He led them through
yeah,
the revolution. Her brother died, even though he was a peaceful man. And this all led to her sudden rising in leadership. And she fucks up and kills them all because she like ignored the big problem of bloaters and hordes underneath the fucking like town.
yeah,
Well, I don't think that that's necessarily like I would say, "Oh, it doesn't make sense you followed." They've only followed her, and they were quickly losing their ability to follow her too. They implied that because the guy um, who played Tommy in the game, like his character, was saying consistently, "Are you sure you want to do this? Like the people are not going to follow. They're starting to question. They have families. They have other homes, and they were having quick doubts already in her leadership."
yeah, yeah.
So
That's
I
true.
think I found her. She was more, you know, understandable for why people follow her because she actually led them through a fucking war. And then whereas, you look at sorry, when you look at shoot, what's his name? The guy that we're talking about in episode 8. I can't
David.
remember. David, thank you. Whereas with David, he doesn't fall into that mentality where like a believability for me. I don't know. If
Yeah,
you disagree, like that's fine. We could agree to
yeah,
disagree.
that's fair. I mean, I pretty much agree with what you're saying. It's um overall, I'll ask, what did you think of like the like? Did you find episode 8 scary? Like, what did you take away from the episode, just overall?
I think that it was really well done. Like, the shots were really cool, like, again, I love, like, the cinematography in the show, it's beautiful. No, I never really got scared, I was more like, "Really, you left that out? Really, you did that?" Like, you know what I mean, a lot of the time. However, they brought back Joel in the most because you can't edit this out, this is how you have to have him in. When
Hmm.
he's trying to find Ellie and, like, fucking, like, takes down that guy, he's beating him, it was perfectly done. And Pedro Pascal does such a great job acting in this scene because Joel in the game's like, "You're gonna tell me where she is, or I'm gonna pop off your knee." Whereas in the show, he's like, "Point, I will dislocate this knee entirely." You know what I mean? It's just very calm and collected,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's scarier to me to watching Joel. Like that's Joel, in my opinion. I'm like, "Fuck, they aced it." I would give the edge to the show over the game for that one.
Okay. Yeah. No,
Now
that's reasonable.
because they finally returned him to how he is in the game, and most of the time the game when facing any zombie. And we'll get to it in a second of why the lack of zombies was an issue. Now, the final scene where Ellie, like, kills David, I thought was really well done. And it was very, again, faithful to the game. Bella Ramsey, just a terrific actress, and was able to capture it perfectly. Now, I will say, I find that like the show heavily like kind of went behind the he was going to sexually assault her, whereas in the game it was more like he tried to kill her. And I don't mind that change for on a thematic point, like it explains more like her. you know, how she became, like, very victimized from that event and traumatized from that event. Where but at the same time, I'm like, is that a good thing? Or I think the game applied that in a more subtle and tasteful way. Like, what would you say for that?
Um, Honestly, I felt like they made up for the lack of fear in the David boss. Because in that game, that boss fight was fucking terrifying, and she
Yeah,
kept stabbing
glass
him,
at
and it was
every
like,
single point, you had to stab him 5 times.
yeah, it was like neck and neck. But in the show, because we didn't get that boss fight, I think they kind of made up for it by making it like there is no fear in love, Ellie, and I'm like, oh, this guy needs to die.
Yeah, and it was very, like, sick and twisted. Would you have wanted them to add, like, broken glass on the floor just what she steps on, and she has to evade him once?
Yeah, yeah, that if they added that little bit, that would have been nice. That would have contributed to the fear factor. I will say I didn't like that they made this less scary, and I don't like that they kind of humanized this group a little bit too much. I
Mm.
really liked the idea that everyone in this group is it's only men and they're all like cannibals. Um,
Well, not all can well, oh, right, you're sorry, you're saying the difference. Sorry, continue.
in the game, this is an example of a group that shows humanity at its absolute worst. It is three-quarters through the story, and it is the darkest part of America.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was like important that that took place there. In the show, I get that they're trying to tell every side of the story, but sometimes here's the thing. I think that like there are really great stories that get a lot of appreciation for humanizing characters,
Mhm.
but I think part of the point of The Last of Us is how it dehumanizes its characters, how it shows characters that aren't much better than the infected.
Mhm.
And I felt like, yeah, the fact that they kind of made it more like, oh, only a few of them know about it. It's like, nah, man, the people in the games were like just they were savages.
Yeah, they were
Um,
assholes. And, you know, I'll really quickly say, so, like, given your overall then, like, opinion, like, of episode 8, what would you say? Because 'cause we're gonna go into episode 9 in a second. Like, what's your overall then review of it? Like, your finalized opinion of thoughts, rating, or so?
Episode 8 ranking out of the whole show, I think that episode 8 is probably in the middle of like the episodes. Like there's a few
I
of them that
agree.
are worse, there are a few of them that are quite a bit better. And it was pretty much like done as well as the game. Like they did the game as a show, and and it worked. And
Mhm.
yeah, overall I'd say it's just pretty solid. Like I honestly I thought it was pretty well done. I liked the David casting. How about you? What are your parting thoughts on this episode?
I think that it was very good. Again, I did have those gripes from, like, a weird cult religion because me, like, as a student who has learned about mass murders and cult leaders, it was very jarring to kind of, like, see that because 'cause I'm like, "You're not following the typical traits, and it doesn't work on a larger scale." However, I'm like, "Hey, you're trying to go more religious." It just okay, like, sure, but then you're also displaying religious behaviors. Like, I know, like, how it does apply the role for some, like, religious, like, cult like, families or, like, instances where, like, they're really, like, more extremists in their kind of opinions or, like, literal interpretations of that, like, faith or whatever. However, it
Yeah,
just seemed weird in this community because it felt like he was saying religious things. They were like, "Okay, like, we just need to survive." And you know what I mean? It just felt to me that was jarring, and I didn't really appreciate it. And I do agree with the points that you make because they really should have enforced there is, like, awful people in this world and stop trying to humanize them so much.
yeah, yeah. I think we're on the same page there. I honestly wish that this episode had a bit more time to develop this story. Um, and maybe they should have done that by shrinking episode 7 a little bit with like mixing some of it in with the Left Behind, as just a thought or an idea.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, no, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, that was definitely, like, an issue. And then now we get into, like, episode 9. Only did they do, like, a lot of things right. It was a pretty good for, like it was the shortest episode, and how they were able to condense that story was a fucking miracle. Because we both played the ending, and we were both concerned, like, "I don't know how they're gonna do it," and they somehow pulled it off. and I was happy with it. Now, there are certain things I would have changed, and I'll nitpick on again a central issue that kind of bothered me for the show. But I'll ask what did you think first?
I thought that it was an excellent adaptation. I've been rewatching the fight scene from it over and over again today. I think that they got it right. It showed Pedro Pascal at his best. Um, I have almost no complaints. In fact, my only complaint is that it was a little too short. They should have maybe lingered on some of the story beats a little bit longer. Um, but yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that from the shot of like him going up the stairs and just like obliterating everybody with each gun he picks up and puts down once he's done and no ammo left. I was like,
Yes,
damn, like this is and the music when you had like him like rising like to the top,
yeah,
it was sad, but it was poetic and so like beautiful almost in a way, despite his like awful atrocity. It was literally like like I don't know how to describe it. It was like a beautiful, dark, twisted fantasy. You know what I mean?
yes. I've rewatched that so many times. It was just the cover of the Last of Us theme on the cellos was really superb.
Hmm.
The confrontation with the doctor, where the doctor's like, "I won't let you take her," and then he just like nonchalantly ends one of the last
Yeah,
people who could have
he
saved
was
this.
quick to do it as well because I commented, after like the show, I was like, "Yo, he literally, it's like, please, I won't let you." And he barely got the words done, and he was shot in the fucking head. Like, whereas in the game, he like actually did you had to, like Joel thought about it, and he's like, "No, this is the right thing." And this one, he was so fucking sure. He just like, bam, not even a second thought. You
He's not
know,
even looking at him. He's like looking at Ellie, and then he like
go
crosses his hand
bam.
over and shoots him, and then he's just unhook her, and it's like, oh damn, okay, this guy's got no show.
Yeah,
Um,
he's just like there. Like it was so good, especially when you consider the fact of that story where he's like, the one time I hesitated, like I lost everything. And this time he did not hesitate at any fucking moment. He just went and got what he needed and he saved his daughter finally. Now, here's where I get into the con of this episode. And I told you how it bothered me. When Joel says to Ellie about like, he mentions his past of Sarah and he says, you know, like I lost my daughter and it took a toll and I didn't know if I was ever gonna kind of escape that. And Ellie's like, well, time heals all wounds, I guess, huh? And then he looks at her and it's like, well, time didn't do it for it. It was actually and goes silent. And it's implied, that Ellie did that. This is what it changed for me because you saw the awkward kind of like, yeah, like on like Ellie's like, like, response to the situation, like what he just said and it's kinda awkward, and I know, like, it was meant to be more emotionally touching, but it's basically like, "Hey, listen, kid, the only reason why I could forgive myself for the guilt of the trauma I've experienced from my daughter dying was because basically made you my new daughter, and yeah, I replaced her with you." It kinda
yeah,
has this really huge weight, and it made me kinda feel uncomfortable, whereas in the game and this is why it was such a huge moment that they passed on, was that Tommy's girlfriend or wife, I guess, in this one, gives Ellie, like, a photo of, uh, Joel and his daughter Sarah, and the thing is that Ellie gives a star at the end of the game where it shows that, "Listen, I'm sorry for your loss, and it's okay for us to talk," and he even says and I made a funny short about it where he accidentally pulls out a brick. He's like, "Well, I guess you can never escape the past, huh?" And it was meant to be like he actually said it in a less creepy not creepy way, but, like, disturbed way, if that makes
yeah,
sense? I don't know. What do you think about that? 'Cause I remember mentioning this to you.
yeah. I don't disagree with like the facts of what you're saying. I guess the part I just don't resonate with is I don't see it as a bad thing that they made that change. It is more awkward and it does put a huge burden on Ellie. I see that as adding stakes to the story. Um, like it's building a good conflict. But I guess art is in the eye of the beholder. If that's not a direction you think they should take it in, then I understand that too.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does really do a good job of setting up Last of Us Part 2. the
That's
story
what
for
I'm
the next
thinking. Yeah.
season. Because if you guys played the game, you would see that Ellie's very detached from Joel, even before the major story thing that happens in this game. You know, she's like always kind of be detached even after like everything happened. And that, like, basically led to her face at the end. But the point I'm saying here, I think that the show did a great job. The only thing that I think was a bad takeaway, or not a takeaway, sorry, criticism, was just that I wish there was more zombies. Because we even made the point that for a show that's about Ellie being the cure and how horrendous this world is because of the zombies, they barely get shown as an actual threat that much.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
And the whole point of the game was you constantly faced either zombies or ravagers trying to kill you. There was never really people good, and if they were good, they died quickly.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like there's definitely like a there's definitely I think it was maybe a budgetary thing, but they definitely kind of faltered on that front of
Mhm.
not really showing the deadliness of the virus had stakes to that final decision.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I know that's a real flaw. It's probably the big flaw of the show. But then I guess we have to ask you the $1 million question: did Joel make the right decision?
Um, you want my like I don't know what kind of answer do you want? My
I want your
actual
answer.
my answer? I mean, I agree with this decision because it does show that the Fireflies are assholes. How they didn't even ask Ellie anything and just like said, "Nope, done, walk off." It was kind of an asshole thing. And it also showed that they're not these like peaceful people. Like they literally knocked them out as soon as they got there, instead of like aiming and talking with them. They just knocked them out and took them away.
Well, okay, to be fair, like I don't like in this world that makes sense. Like no one can be trusted.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know, but like that's just the point that they immediately followed with that. And then it was like, yeah. Also, we captured her, and then we're putting her under so you can go through the surgery.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah, it was
mean?
a little quick.
Imagine being captured, not really getting to know the fireflies, and then being put under. In
Like
the
that
game
that's
too, like she was
true.
like choking on water and almost drowned, and she was resuscitated and put under.
Yeah, it felt like honestly in the game it had this flaw too. Like we jump really, really quickly from you're going on a walk with Ellie to the fate of the world rests on what you do with the next 3 minutes of your life. And it was like, whoa, 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 like holy crap, like what? Um and that's sort of why I'm yeah, that's sort of why in this whole thing I felt like it was a little rushed, honestly, what the Fireflies did. I do see like I do see a lot of their decisions making sense. But like it's the
Mhm.
post apocalypse. Like some people walk onto your territory, like knock them out. Like they could be spies. They could be Fedra for all we know. But I also see, yeah, like it was a little quick, I'll say. That's what I'll say. From a pacing perspective. The way the Fireflies acted kind of rushed the story along.
Yeah, I mean, I do get it from that. I don't think it's terrible, but yeah, I don't know. It's just I do think it just portrays the fireflies as assholes personally a lot more because they rushed into surgery without a second's thought. Oh,
Yeah.
we almost forgot Ashley Johnson playing Ellie's mother, and now they explain like the origin of why Ellie's immune. I think that was a
Yes.
brilliant explanation. It makes perfect sense.
I think it does too. I think it's absolute. Like if you got breastfed by someone who had those like hormones in
Well,
them
she
to
was
save.
she wasn't breastfed. They
Oh
said that they said because you remember how like Marlene's like was it before or after, and then she's like, oh, it was before. Don't worry, I haven't breastfed her yet. She's hungry.
yeah,
So I mean, so she never had that. It was just because she was bit, and because this thing spread so quickly that she would have gotten like a part of it.
I thought it was that she cut the umbilical cord with the knife.
Yes, but also because she was bit.
Yeah, but I mean, if she was bit, like like I don't know, I don't think that's what would have spread. Like I think she was lying. Is my
Hold on,
interpretation.
hold on.
Um,
Can you search it up? I'm kind of curious actually of like what the answer to that is.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I thought it was the breastfeeding thing. Like,
No, it wasn't a breastfeeding. I know that because they mentioned about how she hasn't had anything.
but she was lying. Like that's what I mean. Like she was.
No, she lied about the umbilical cord thing. I don't think she fed her.
Oh, okay. Um,
Did you find it?
yeah, I found him.
This is like that Joe Rogan Jamie moment.
Yeah,
Jamie, can
Jamie
you
Cole.
pull
Yeah.
up?
Um. Oh, this is talking about the game. This is like from 4 years ago.
Damn it.
Uh,
We need the
okay,
show.
I
God
found
damn it.
Screen Rented something. Um. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's something like how Ellie is immune confirmed. Okay. Um.
Jamie, come on.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to read through. It's like okay, has been Ellie due to immune from the infection that entered the world. If Ellie can reach the okay, this website's like dog shit.
Oh, come on.
Like
Come
I no,
on.
I found two that like don't actually answer the question.
Hold on.
Uh,
I got it. I'm going to find it
which I,
right here. Don't worry, guys. I'm going to be the true Jamie of this
do it.
television.
Okay.
Or I mean, of this podcast. Episode 9. Rest of Us. Uh, why Ellie is immune. Ready for the look at 3 articles explaining it all. Right here, Pop Buzz. Here we go. Seems like a legitimate site. We learned that Ellie is immune to the cordyceps fungus. As a result, oh wait, hold on. Um, Flashback. Run away from an infected. Anna appears to escape. However, when she is giving birth, the infected bites her and then asks her best friend Marlene to kill her and look after Ellie. In the present day at the Fireflies Hospital, Marlene explains how Ellie is immune. She reveals our doctor thinks that the cordyceps in Ellie has grown with her since birth and produces a kind of chemical messenger. It makes normal cordyceps think that she's cordyceps. It's why she's immune.
Yeah, they don't really explain it. They just kind of leave it up to your imagination of what exactly did it. Um.
They said here, though, if Anna had been bitten, Ellie would have never developed immunity.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it was the. I think personally it was the breastfeeding. That was
But
my
there was no
interpretation.
breastfeeding. There's none. She says no.
No, but she lied about the umbilical cord too. Like she just
No,
lied.
no. Okay, but do you
She's
know
a liar.
why? No, do you know why? It's because was the umbilical cord connected when you got bit? When you got bit. Because if she got bit, when it went, like the nutrients and everything of her body would have been contaminated with the cordyceps.
Oh, okay, I see what you're
Because
saying.
that's how they take the nutrients, right? To like for the fetal, like,
Yeah.
development period. So even if it's finals moment. So it wasn't the knife, it was the fact that she was bitten. It got just a tiny bit of that cordyceps infection, but it was cut off. So she barely got anything. But it still
Okay.
remains
Yeah.
and it lives in her.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it spread through the umbilical cord. Okay, I know that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah, I thought it for some reason I thought it was just the breast milk. Uh.
No, even if so, it would have been like really like that one portion of it, like her like having the milk would have like contaminated her entirely. Like, no.
Yes, umbilical, and also yeah, that also makes it more rare. Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. I forgot umbilical cords be doing that. Um. But
Cordy's umbilical cords be cordy.
yeah. But yeah, no, I think that I think overall a great episode, a great conclusion to the series or the season at least. And yeah, it's probably say one of my favorite in the whole series. Um,
Fair enough.
yeah. Um, yeah. With that being said, I guess we kind of we drove through those episodes. I'm actually surprised we fit that in.
God, man, I told you it was going to be manageable. I don't really think we have anything else to talk about unless you could think of it. Like, unless you want to talk about
No,
like,
I'm
no, you're
tired, man.
you're all good. You're tired out. Those are two hefty conversations we got through. So,
Hmm.
well, I guess that only leaves us with well, thank you very much, Caleb, for being on this podcast. Once again and delivering your most insightful opinions on these wonderful topics of conversation.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's always good. Yeah, just shooting the shit. Um,
Yeah,
always good to
shooting the
talk.
shit on a Tuesday. No, is it Monday? It's gonna be Tuesday when this is uploaded. Anyways, well, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, please leave like a like, comment, subscribe on the Triangle Button channel. If you want to support the channel in any way, or maybe go on Spotify, stream this a couple times on any other platforms. It's on multiple stuff. I have new content that's on the way, and I think you guys are going to be excited for it. But anyways, that's a topic for another time. Yeah, that concludes this episode. Have a great day, everybody.
Endure and survive.
Oh yeah.